If I like it when I know someone can just do it, I do it. But if I seem like I'm gonna go through a process of talking about technology that I don't want to do, I just say go
You
with
would
God.
honestly think these people would fucking get it together. You know what I mean?
What you're forgetting is that I have the trauma of doing the first season of this show about Jackson Browns.
That's true. Yeah,
Think
that's
about
a
season
a
True.
one.
great a great
So
point.
so we just booked or like sorta. We just booked Matthew Cause from Nada Surf,
Hell yeah.
which I'm insanely excited about. And he like has a studio that he works out of. And I'm like, I can't wait for him to just, instead of using any of the studio equipment, still just like talk through like AirPods.
It's really funny. It's like I'm off the clock, buddy. I'm just talking to
Yeah,
podcasters. You get AirPod talk.
we got
Hell
it.
yeah.
All right, welcome to After the Deluge. I'm Justin Cox. My guests today are Dan Bassini and Andrew Valentine of the podcast Run Into the Ground. How's it going?
It's good,
Yo,
man.
what's up?
You flipped a switch pretty
Yeah, that was
drastically
impressive.
there.
It's crazy watching the magic happen from this side.
Well, I'm not going to record an intro for this one. We're in. I'm actually like I think I'm like just copying the style of you guys going to your movies. You're on this as people who go to the movies for your podcast sometimes. So we're at a movie.
Occasionally, yeah.
We saw a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
I guess I heard you interviewed Jason Stewart, but then I listened to you guys talking about the charming little Saddle Creek documentary about
Yeah.
that had a lot of bright eyes in it. And so then that path leads to me coming on your show, which was a lot of fun. I think this is kind of it's in the style of like fidelity and like level of like professionalism as that Saddle Creek documentary. This feels like a thing that should be watched illegally on YouTube.
Right off the bat, I was thinking watching this, I'm like, because this is a very specific era where like every band had a DVD, and
You're
it
right.
was mostly just a bunch of dorks goofing off.
You know what? Here, how was this even released to begin with? Do you know how it was released?
Fat Records in some I don't know if it's like I mean I think it was on a DVD and stuff like that, but I think Dan's right.
It wasn't like extended material for a record or anything.
It wasn't an enhanced CD.
Oh,
Yeah,
You
well,
remember those?
Here's
Here we
what's
are.
something I can't remember if I said it on the last episode or not, or if I left it in like the little edit, but like I'd never seen this before. So I'm making this podcast. I hadn't seen it. And I, at some point in my life was like, at some point I'm going to watch that Against Me documentary, but it's going to be the right time. The right time
Mhm.
presented itself while making this podcast. And so, what was weird is I'd seen enough little YouTube clips to like kind of know what it was and what it was like, but this was my moment to sit and watch it.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I don't know what little way I'm entertaining myself for this, but I went by myself to the Taylor Swift movie
Oh,
at my local movie theater and then came
Are
back
you-
home.
You might
Came-
be on a list now, maybe.
I'll come to that in a second, but I came home and I came home and just sat down and drank 2 beers and watched this on a YouTube video.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
a little
no.
compare and contrast.
Yeah, different production value. But that was I felt perfectly good and fine going to the Taylor Swift thing. Like I have it's not like I'm like a crazy fan or stan or whatever, but I do like it and I like I was down to go see it. I also, I live on this little island that plays one movie per week and I was like, yep, I'm going to go
Justin
see
Cox
that.
confirmed
you got it.
Swiftie.
I mean,
But I felt so all that I felt good about. But fun thing is that I pulling up to the movie theater here, a car in front of me stopped at a stop sign, and then I see the lights come on and just backs into my car,
Oh my
gets out.
God.
It's my elderly neighbor who is alone, a dude alone, also going to the Taylor Swift show. And so he goes to it. He's talking how he barely touched it. I was like, it's all good, Joe. Whatever.
Wait. Why? What made him stop and then just back up into you? Like,
At
what
first-
was the
At first, he's
what was the
all.
reasoning
At first, he's all. Your lights are so low to the ground. It's like, Joe, come on, dude. Like my lights are.
Wait, was this
you're-
in the parking lot?
No, it's like a street right before you turn onto the street. It was like it's pretty dark up here right now, but car's fine. It's whatever. But
I think your neck's starting to hurt a little bit though,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm feeling.
I definitely was like, Joe, let's not deal with this too much now, but I'll talk to you tomorrow if like my bumper's falling off or I experience any pain. But anyway, I get there and I'm probably like 9 minutes before the movie starts. And to your list thing, like I didn't enjoy those 9 minutes of the lights being up and me in that theater by myself. Didn't enjoy it. It was weird. It was weird. Like,
You know, I'm a big proponent though of like I got no qualms about going out to eat by myself.
same.
I got no problem like movies especially. I never understood
Oh my
the whole
God,
idea of like,
I
a solo
prefer
movie
movies
is my
alone.
preferred movie.
Absolutely.
Except that
Awesome.
time me and Andrew randomly went to see Star Wars that one time, I think, right? We
Was
we
it
saw
Star
Star
Wars?
Wars together at the Jersey City AMC.
Yeah, I don't know why I have been since that moment thinking that we went to go see a Marvel movie.
They're all the same franchise
It's
universe
true.
I
now, I
just
think
So
it
I
is.
true.
just remember eating 2 lunches back to back after we saw that movie.
I
We
mean,
did a full round of the food court, as
the
you have to do.
You
the
got it.
some the real thing is, and this goes for movies, dinner, whatever. If there's
Yeah.
any doubt whatsoever, movie wise, especially a show wise, like I hate taking someone who I don't know if they're gonna like the thing and sit
Mhm.
there wondering what they're feeling about it. I'll go to a show and eat that by myself
See, I
easily.
love taking somebody to something I've already seen and then just watching them the whole time to make sure they laugh at all the right parts. And or like you like tap them on the shoulder. No, this is a good part.
You crazy.
Dan, you're gonna find somebody one day and it's gonna be really special, I promise
It's gonna
you.
be really special.
I hate doing things like that with my wife. I hate going to movies with her. I hate
I hate
going.
sharing a home.
No, I have been talking about building a yurt in the backyard, but that's
Yo,
totally
yours is legit.
You're getting into real Orcas Island territory with the yurt in the
That's what I'm
backyard.
saying. Yo, I want it so bad. I want to be like
You-
the
you-
holy man of Baltimore.
that's
You need
something.
your Shangri-La, you need to grow a giant white beard.
I love that you say that, the holy man of Baltimore, because this movie having like the crusties of Baltimore, some girls from Baltimore, you're
Was a
speaking on behalf of them today.
there was an awful lot of Baltimore. There's a lot of Baltimore and a lot of Philly. Two
There's
places
a lot
that I
of
spent an
Northeast in
awful
general.
lot of
They spend a
time.
lot of
Yeah.
time in Asbury Park.
I think it makes you guys great guests for this because that's like it's such a blind spot for me.
It's
I remember
absolutely my wheelhouse.
Yeah,
I went
same.
to, well, I've listened to your podcast to know that enough. There's certain stuff where I'm like, oh, that's some weird East Coast.
Oh, we get
punky
real
shit.
regional.
Yeah.
We've had full episodes waxing poetic on
Yeah,
Philadelphia.
Wait
for like
till I
multiple
start talking about
pods in a row.
Panzerottis, then you're really fucked.
You're talking.
Panzerottis and Boost.
You guys
Ooh,
talk.
Only
Boost.
South Jersey heads are gonna know.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You guys talk a lot about the Philadelphia scene, and by that I mean like some guy who jacks off with cheese in his car or something like that.
Oh, hell yeah. The Swiss cheese pervert, baby. Let's
That's
get
my
into
guy.
it.
favorite scene.
That guy.
And
Here,
speaking of Philly, first note on the entire docket here, I just said 2 minutes and 50 seconds in, already spotted the church carpet. And again, for people who don't know, the church, which is First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia, famous show spot for maybe one of the longest running DIY spots, at least in like this region of the world, has a very specific carpet. It's like a children's preschool carpet with like block letters, and it's like got the ABCs on it especially, but it's all like
damn.
crazy rainbow colors. It's become so synonymous with that space that at one point they had to replace it and had to get it like custom made
Yeah.
to get it recreated. And then during the pandemic, to raise money, they actually did a collaboration with Vans that has that carpet pattern on the shoes.
That is iconic.
And so when he said, like, look up First Unitarian Church carpet and you'll see.
I think we talked last time. We like went off on a long trail of like Offspring and California bands and this kind of sensibility
tracks,
of punk.
yeah.
That to me was what like entryway into punk music was. And then I went to school in Chicago. I was sort of like out of water at the school or whatever. And then this girl was wearing like a Strike Anywhere shirt. I don't know if they're from the Northeast. It might be from Florida or something. But
Richmond.
okay.
Hmm.
Anyways, I saw that and I was like, I don't even listen to that band a lot, but I was like, I need a person wearing a shirt. Like, I need to know a person like that right now in my life. And so she was the person I went to a lot of shows with. And then she like edited the magazine Wonka Vision, which I hadn't heard of, but do you know that?
Oh, we just talked about that
We
on an episode that'll be out next week, at least from
love
time to
Wonka
recording.
Vision.
Cool. Yeah. It felt cool because I was like, you're talking about something I can tell is cool, but I don't know what it is. And I wrote a thing about the RX Bandits, this band from Southern California, for that, but I think it was on its deathbed, maybe just online or something at that point.
Yeah, Wonka Vision was sick. That was a very special magazine.
I reference it almost daily, but there was a really great Wonka Vision guide to scene hairstyles.
Yes.
And the one was the reverse mohawk, where you just shave down the center.
Yeah, that was like the singer of Alien Ant Farm had that.
Yeah. Did have that.
What a
Well, cool.
time.
That friend was Ellen Thompson. Shout out Ellen Thompson.
Shout out.
But so here's a question. Here's the ultimate dumbass like not knowing about the Northeast. But
Mhm.
what actually is Asbury Park? Because I have a Bruce Springsteen record called Greetings from Asbury Park.
Of course.
I thought maybe is it a park? I thought is it an indoor venue that they just call that? But then when they're at this thing like, yeah, we're at Asbury Park today, Coheed and Cambria and Taking Back Sunday, then they list off 50 bands. So is it a festival? Asbury Park, give it for dummies.
Justin.
For dummies. That's why you're on here.
I got married in Asbury Park.
It's true.
The city, the venue,
it's a city.
The emo festival.
It's a location in New Jersey. It's a whole ass town, you would say.
Okay.
Asbury Park is actually it's one of my favorite places, but it's definitely an interesting place in terms of history because obviously most people know it via Bruce Springsteen.
Right.
He kind
of
by
the way, people, this is the movie. They stopped through Asbury Park and play a festival there.
Yeah, they play what was called Skate and Surf Festival that later sort of transitioned into Bamboozle Festival, which was huge. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Asbury Park was a place that my dad grew up right outside. He's got his own Bruce Springsteen street race circuit stories of his own. But it was like a thriving beach resort town. You know, they had all kinds of crazy, carousel games and arcades and like a traditional boardwalk beach town.
Like Coney Island type thing?
Yeah, kind of actually not far off. They actually share a lot of imagery from Coney Island. But yeah, a little smaller than Coney Island. And it kind of went through a crazy depressive era of like the 70s. There was like race riots. And then like the 80s and 90s, it kind of just turned into a literal ghost town.
Yeah.
One of the first Warped Tour I ever went to was in Asbury. And they literally just took over the whole town. Like it was the whole thing. And all the different stages were in the different venues, which was really cool. She kind of like went around because the other famous place is the Stone Pony, which everyone knows as like a very famous venue, as well as the convention center, right, Andrew? That's what's the convention center is the big historic building too. Also, we'll talk about that a little later because they play there for skate and surf, and one of the worst sounding venues of all time. It's a giant concrete room that just sounds like a cave. But
I saw Guster there.
Oh wow,
that's Guster with a G.
That's another band that I hear about on the West Coast and think.
I feel like Guster is like a band that like
popular.
Guster, I feel like can't play on the East Coast. Like it doesn't fit in on the East Coast. It's not East Coast music.
It's the stand-up drums. That's the problem.
Oh God, I
can't get into the cocktail
drummer.
kit. What if? Terrible.
But yeah, Asbury Park.
Oh, and the guy plays with his fucking hands. That's what the wild thing about Guster.
When you're standing up and drumming with your hands, you're just play bongos or whatever.
He's playing bongos, but he's playing like a kit. What a fucking asshole. I'm sorry. I don't mean to use so much profanity on your podcast.
When they say we're in Asbury Park today against me, are they playing the festival that's in a bunch of different venues? Or are they in one place that is playing is having 50 bands play?
Skate and Surf Fest kind of sprawled out a little bit. There's a lot of venues in one place in Asbury, in like a very like less than a square mile. There's Convention Hall and the Paramount Theater, which are attached. Two separate places, same share building.
Okay.
There's the Wonder Bar, which the Menzingers sing about.
I've sung it. I've sung that. Never knew.
There was Asbury Lanes, which still exists, but in a different form, bought by like AEG, which sucks. But that used to be like my second home. The Saint.
The Stone Pony.
There was Club Deep, the Stone Pony. And this is all within like 6 blocks.
Yeah, and like not in a big town. Like, no. I mean, this is,
really cool.
And now there's the Asbury Park Brewery, I think, does shows, and House of Independence is there now. Mm-hmm. It's just it's a musical city. It's a very musical city.
As Dan mentioned, I would say 90s through mid-aughts.
Yeah.
Not a place you want to go.
Yeah, stuff was just half abandoned.
Yeah, lots of, gang activity. Just sort of a sad place to be, especially like for a New Jersey beach town.
It's
just
crazy.
like an anomaly.
Crazy that a beach town could like fall into disrepair, considering it's like the most valuable real estate on the planet.
I agree with you, but also anytime I see like East Coast beaches, I'm like, That's depressing looking. Like I see it on
Get the fuck
Seinfeld when
out of
they're at
here.
the beach. I'm like, this is
No.
awful looking. What is this shit?
I know this is your podcast, but we're not going to let that stand. Jersey beaches are a beautiful place.
I bet they are. Not putting your
I
best foot forward with the Jersey Shore and whatever kind of camera they're bringing to the beach on Seinfeld.
I got to talk about, Andrew, your wedding.
Yeah.
Who was the person, one of your friends, I forget his name, who had never been to Asbury Park, and in the same day bumps into Bruce Springsteen and the cast of Jersey Shore?
That's cool.
I mean, look, said he
That's cool.
bumped into Bruce Springsteen. Yeah,
I choose to believe him
Say.
because I think it's hilarious that he literally, like, both poles of the Jersey spectrum
That
is like, because the cast of Jersey Shore appeared in the hotel we were staying at for Andrew's wedding that night.
Yeah, at the
So,
after
like,
party.
Yeah,
He hired them.
he hired
No.
them exactly.
No, that's a whole nother like twist of events. I never went to skate and surf, so I don't really know.
I never went to skate and surf either. I went to the first year of Bamboozle.
Yeah.
But
was
that's
that in the
probably
same place?
but that's probably what Against Me was at for this thing. They never say it maybe, but
I think this
And-
happened too early for it to be Bamboozle, so it must have been Skate and
Yeah.
Surf. They brought Skate and Surf back again. Bamboozle was there the first year, then got so big they moved it to like the Meadowlands in North Jersey.
okay.
But the first year of Bamboozle, same deal. You got a wristband, and it got you into all the different venues happening around.
That's
So
cool.
instead of setting up stages, they just had played in venues that already existed. It was really cool.
Amazing. All right, I have one I want to ask you in a second that I think will like bridge into the movie pretty well. But
Sure.
while we're in Asbury Park, how well do you know Story of the Year? That's a really fun scene when she gets on the bus, the band gets on the bus with them.
I was a Story of the Year fan.
Yeah.
I was not.
They were electric on stage, I believe. They were like,
I mean, look, they're dorks who flung their guitars around. Like,
and that was entirely my shit back then.
Yeah,
That was my whole identity at that point.
You know how the like sort of like sixth sense like magical power you develop like when you're deep in like a music scene like this, whatever period of your life, and maybe it kind of stays with you, but where you like you either see one thing or 3 seconds of video or like the little sheet of stickers at Warped Tour or whatever, and you kind of just have the ability to be like, I know what that is. Like I know what that is. I don't need. I got it. And I think there were a lot of bands, especially like drive-through records bands and stuff, where I was just like, all set. I know what that is. And I remember, I think, having that about Story of the Year. But the thing is, I think a lot of times you're actually wrong about that, and you just don't check out a band that you probably would like.
I mean,
But a lot of times you're right.
yeah, my example of that is a band called Against Me. When I saw Against Me was on Fat Records, I was sort of like, that Fat Records is not my punk. You know what I mean? Fat Records is not what I reach for.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very, very wrong.
Yeah. Well, it was a fucking rock solid press pass to get on the Story of the Year tour bus to drink their eat their ice cubes.
Story of the Year was a weird, because it felt industry planty a little bit, which is very funny to say about like a heavier band, but it was pretty crazy that they, like, the record itself actually has some pretty heavy songs.
Nice.
It was of the time. I revisited the
only know
record
the
not too
one.
long ago.
Until the day I
Yeah,
die.
that
The only
was
song
the
I
first
know.
single, but they have some good shit.
I mean,
and, like,
go ahead, Dan.
I don't know. Oh no, it was just like in that era of like the Used being on like the radio too, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting to make in. I think their original band name was called like Big Blue Monkey or something. So
Love
Nice.
that.
but I think it was a major label release, so that's why it gets a little fishy. But
Yeah.
I mean, what's everyone's relationship to Against Me though, going into it?
I'll say mine in a second, and I'll be quick because I've said it on this podcast, I think. But I found them via the previous record as the Eternal Cowboy, and this is the tour that's between that and the next one. So I mind that one and the previous ones.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right in like assessing, like having some kind of snap judgment about what a Fat Records band means to you, and that not necessarily being what Against Me is. Regardless of, I did like a lot of the Fat Records bands, but it's funny that there's just one like minute and a half long scene with Fat Mike being like, yeah, everyone at the label likes them. It's like this one scene never comes back, and
It's the only scene with Fat Mike, right?
yeah, it's just one shot.
So I got in as the Eternal Cowboy. I think the cover image was enough to make me listen to it, and then I went back and I sort of was like, regrettably at the time into like Defiance, Ohio and stuff that like did not stay with me throughout my like adult life, but at the time was like, this is a blend of two things I like, right? Acoustic guitars and punk rock. Like this
Yeah.
seems sort of perfect. It's like the anti folk that I can stand. That's not the Moldy Peaches.
It's true. It was like delivering something that like because I like that combination of things too, but you can do it in so many ways, and whatever way they
Yeah.
did it, I was like, ooh, baby,
Yeah.
this is
I
something.
mean, I think that like Laura has something that's like an undefinable it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and you really feel it watching this. Um,
Yep.
like I know I don't know if you go scene, we want to go scene by scene or
Go
whatever,
go
Frame by
anywhere.
frame.
but I think that there was a part that stuck with me like 20 years ago when this first came out and I saw it, or 19 years ago or whatever. Um, there was a part where Laura's in the back seat with a girl who's
Yeah.
like, I want to kiss you, or like, you're going to kiss me. And Laura's like, no, I'm fucking not. Like, why would
It's
I
so
do
good.
that?
It's
Like,
so
it's the
good.
most ridiculous thing that like she had ever heard in her life. And I was just like, that's that's a band that I can like get behind.
The,
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
it,
that's like an attitude of a human being that I'm like, fuck yes.
it's the
Like,
Yeah,
ultimate. It's the ultimate. Like, A, I'm not doing that, and B, I'm not gonna tell you I'm not doing it in a way that is like any kind of performative sort of like
right.
high. And it's
yeah,
just sort of like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
yeah.
The like laughing in someone's face while they're throwing themselves at you is just like, and I don't know, I didn't pick up on it before, and I picked up on it today for the first time. Right after that scene, you can see them all sort of walking down the street, and that girl from the taxi is like walking by herself, totally dejected.
Oh
And it
man.
made me
Oh
feel
man.
so happy.
Oh man. Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, I get in at as the Eternal Cowboy, but I sort of like, get in, and I sort of I think the last record I bought in real time was New Wave.
Dan, you don't have much experience with this band. How'd that happen?
Yeah, I mean, Against Me has always been a pretty ubiquitous name growing up in the punk scene, but it's like never kind of crossed my plate a little bit. Like I
Yeah.
said, I was probably busy listening to the story of the year at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got into like real like heavy and like weird grindier stuff at that era. And at this point, like I was probably off of the Fat Records train, and the most I listened to Against Me was probably for the podcast episode we did with Dan Ozzie talking about Eternal Cowboy
Yep.
during Laura's transition, which is pretty wild to think about how someone who's in kind of a fringe popular punk band gained such national attention at that
Yeah.
time was pretty wild to see.
A huge deal.
I think Laura was on like some daytime talk shows and stuff talking about it.
Yeah.
And but I got into listening to like Transgender Dysphoria Blues, which I think is a really cool record, a change in the sound. And I got to photograph Against Me during that whole hype cycle for NME back in the day,
Oh shit.
which
Cool.
was cool. And I was like, oh man, I can't turn down a job from NME. And they paid me
Real.
maybe the worst rate of all time to do it.
What?
I was living in Central Jersey, and I had to take a train to the Music Hall Williamsburg, and then the band didn't go on until like 11:30, and I needed to catch the last train back to Central Jersey, so I could only shoot like the first like 4 songs. And some crusty dude whose pants kept falling down kept stage diving on everybody and smelled really, really bad. So the crusties were still on board at that point. But yeah, and then NME was like, oh, we need the photos by 10 a.m. UK time. So I literally was up editing until 4:30 in the morning to get them their photos. And they paid me $150.
Yeah, man.
So if people ask me why I don't do music photography much anymore, that was
It's
really a nail in the coffin.
I've done like a good amount of like writing for the internet and everything, and that gets devalued because
Got to be
they
even
know
worse, yeah.
they know. I know it can be, but I think that with photography, it's actually worse because like you're gonna get paid nothing, and then it's just going to float around all over the internet without any credit and everything. And
Oh yeah.
it's like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
something about it seems.
Oh, don't worry, Dan. If Dan sees any of his photos, he will stop people in their tracks to tell
It's
them
true.
he took it.
It's true. It's
Absolutely.
true. It's the only joy I have left from that era.
That and hot dogs.
I love it.
But yeah, I don't know. I was like, oh, NME, you got to do it for NME, and then yeah, now no fucking chance. I mean, like British magazines pay. Some of the best paid work I did was for Kerrang, and yeah, NME just feels like they can pay anybody anything.
Lame.
Sucks. You're NME. You're on site. This is your year. You're going down.
What's your guys' experience with touring? Like watching this thing and watching sort of like the antics of it, the partying of it, the rhythm of it, everything like that. What's the like largest extent you've toured? Because I think you've both done some of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a couple full US's with other people's bands. I've done regional stuff. I've been to Fest.
Like Merch Girl?
Yep, Merch Girl, which was a weird. I mean, I don't want to get. That was a weird part for me. But yeah, I think I didn't start doing any national touring until I was already, almost 30. So the bands that I toured with were not partiers. Right. So I did not experience anything like this at all. The goofing, sure, but not
plenty
the
of
substances.
Goofing.
Plenty of goofing.
Yeah,
Dan did tour once.
I've done a few tours. No, we had it's funny on an episode coming out we did with Andy from Pool Kids and You Blew It, who was a band I toured with dads back in the day. We actually had a really fun rundown of some crazy nights we had on that tour. But for the most part, yeah, not too much. Plenty of goofing, not too much partying. I'm still like a recovering straight edge person, so like partying's never been my forte. And I'm usually the one, especially like on a tour situation, kind of assuming a TM role is just like I have to be the one who kind of keeps everything together a little bit. And yeah, I don't know, it's weird. I think we've talked about it before. It's just lamenting like when someone's like, "Oh yeah, you can come crash at our place," and then you show up at their place and they're throwing a party, and it's like, we just want to go to bed. Like we just want to sleep on something that's not the back bench seat. You truly bond with someone while sharing a very small space across a very large stretch of time, and that stuff that's immeasurable. But
you can't treat it the way this band at this moment is treating it forever, and they don't continue to, and like not all these members don't stay in the band, and band members get sober, and I think this is the height of the sort of like we're making chaos.
I just can't imagine affording to drink like that on tour.
Oh God, yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of, I think that they're doing it in other ways too, but I think a lot of it is that they're not paying, right? This is like they're being courted.
True.
That
I
think
is a fun part of this doc.
That's kind of like the pivotal part of it. And we've already checked the Dan Ozzie bingo card box, but it's going to come up on every episode. I'm certain of it. But it's really like a documentary version of like them being courted. But it is a funny thing to think about, like, okay, you chose to document this. You chose to document the courting and the fact that you stay with the label you're on instead of signing, but you do sign 2-3 years later. Yeah. Like, and it's more backlash, like major backlash. Do you think they had any inkling of like, maybe not this record, but maybe the next one? Or do you think they're like, I don't know, there's some sort of like self-defeating part of being like, let's document all the whole journey of us not signing to a major label.
Yeah.
I struggled a lot while watching this today, thinking like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like, what am I actually watching right now? And I don't know if the whole point was like of leaning so heavily on being courted by major labels. I don't know if that was we're punk and we're turning it down. You know what I mean? It's like if it's like a punk success story,
it's like an extra cred kind of thing.
Yeah, or if it's like testing the waters, like, I think we might do this, but we're gonna show you how much, because they really do, like, there's so much pressure. Yeah. How many different label people talk on the dock? You know what I mean? There's got to be at least there's the dude from Universal.
Universal.
There's the isn't there like a dude and a girl from Ireland?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a third one or not,
There's some
but
assistant type people at Fat trying to keep them to stay. And then
Yeah.
right.
there's
Oh, that scene in the van was like painful to watch, to be honest. There's nothing I like less than hearing people give other people advice about like their band in a way
Yeah.
that's like
Clearly beneficial to them.
right.
Yeah.
It is, but it's like you put her in her role, and her role is we love this band, and we want you to stay here, and here's what we can do
True.
from you.
Yeah.
You know, it's
True.
like,
100%.
but I think that's actually maybe this is growing up and like finding nuance in things, or whatever, or just that like the circumstances are such that fuck it, you just take what you can take. But like A&R people and these people making these pitches seem pretty reasonable when you watch these things at this age. To me,
Sure.
it's like that guy sounds actually kind of nice to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
did
even
you read Sellout?
I did, yeah.
Like those people are just salespeople. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're hired for their knowledge of, contemporary pop music and personality.
I'm trying to remember who it was, but it was someone online defending Fat Records in a way, someone who had been in a million bands and was like, hey, of all the labels I've been, under, Fat Records is still the only one that pays me like the residuals on time. Like I always get a check from Fat Records of what I'm due, and every other record label, big or small, I've had to like chase down. And Fat apparently is on their shit with paying the artists what
That's cool, and I
they've
believe
earned.
it. I think there's some sensibility from like I'm just thinking about like Fat Mike, honestly, that's sort of like even when saying the wrong thing seems like it's coming from the right place or an honest place at least, like it's
Mhm.
like I think there's a certain sort of like you need people telling whatever that version of truth is in the world, and be that version of that in the form of a record label would be, yeah, we're not trying to be this whatever holier than thou record label. We are
Mhm.
what we are. We're also not trying to be bigger. We're just going to pay you on time, tell you we'll do this, write a contract on the back of a piece of paper, and I don't know. Yeah, I think there's something to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was actually, it might have actually been there was a Fat Records documentary, I think, that came out. It makes sense for them to put someone saying something so nice to them in their own documentary.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just think Fat Mike just seems like an insufferable human being.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's all.
not
Yeah.
to me, not to me. You can take
No,
that.
not to you.
I read the NoFX book like a couple years ago. Have you read that or heard about that?
No.
No.
Absolutely worth reading. I mean, I guess if you absolutely hate NoFX and don't care at all, maybe not.
No,
But
I was a fan.
it's like the chapters are written by all four members of the band. Kind of they have their spots, and you got heroin addiction, you got all Fat Mike stuff, you got all kinds of stuff. I mean, maybe either they told a really effective story, or it was the most truthful book I've ever read. Like it was like warts and all, sort of the like, and very funny, and I don't know. I had a brief moment like 2 weeks ago of an After the Deluge email solicitation to Fat Mike, banging around some Fat Records emails for a minute. It was a possibility that it didn't happen, but
Damn.
making museums and stuff like that, making punk museums in
Oh, isn't there a
Vegas.
punk rock museum in
That's
Vegas or something now?
that's no effects in Fat Mike. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
things like that's what I mean. Is it's like they're gonna be the version of pure like punk that they're gonna do is gonna be the one that makes the museum in Vegas, or like I don't know if they do punk rock bowling, but feels like
Yeah,
they
they do.
would. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's their thing. They found the economy of punk rock, I think is what it is.
that's a good way to put that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean it's I think it was Pat Kindlin from Drug Church said that they have like really unexpected Drug Church fans from playing punk rock bowling. Like people
Nice.
who'd never expect to reach out and be fans of this like hardcore adjacent band are like, oh fuck yeah, I saw you at punk rock bowling, and now I'm gonna come to every of your show that like anytime you're in town, because it's like
Cool.
full of like the kind of punks that just love punk, like the Gen X punks
Yeah.
who are just like, I just love punk music and I'll do anything to listen to punk music and support any punk bands. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's not an enthusiasm you get out of people our generation or younger.
No,
Yeah.
I don't. I don't think I can identify with that level of fandom.
No, me neither.
I just
The
don't
punk Swifties, the Swifties of punk rock, the
like the
parasocial punk
people.
relationships.
This is going way off topic, and I apologize already, but I remember maybe in like 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, I like didn't care about social media. It was sort of like Facebook was the way I kept in touch with a lot of friends, and I was sort of like, I don't need this anymore. So I was like nuking my account by just following every person you may know. And it turns out that like most of those people were Fest people. And so every Fest season, I just get inundated with like Fest stuff. Um, and it's like a lifestyle that I just don't understand
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. I can see that.
I want to go because I want to see bands I like and I want to see friends,
Yeah.
but like I just don't like I don't care. I don't want to see the Descendants. I don't care about the Descendants. Like,
It's not like a spiritual retreat to you. You
yeah,
go
I
see some
mean,
music or
right.
a social signifier or anything like that.
Ooh,
I
Yeah,
get
what
it.
it's
about a
more like I want to go drink coffee and smoke weed and like watch Lifetime. You know
what
what I
about
mean? Like,
a nice little fest weekend followed by like a cleansing at Casadega? That'd be a nice little week trip.
Let's go.
honestly, let's do it next year,
Let's do it.
2024.
Florida. We're hitting
Hell yeah.
Florida. We're
How
hitting
far? I want to see you. Well, I want to see how far Casadega is
From
from
Gainesville.
Gainesville.
talk about it.
I totally forgot Against Me was a Gainesville band, but it makes so much sense.
How?
I don't know.
The re-
It's so obvious.
I know
Our friends
I
over
know
at Overnight Drive talk about that all the time. Is like how listening to hot water music in high school made people like want to be a warehouse worker in Central Florida.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I
like
think
people
they're in
aspired to being like postal workers in hot ass Florida.
well, therein I think is why you don't register Against Me as a Gainesville band is because Laura Jane Grace doesn't and never has looked essentially like you and Chuck Reagan.
It's true.
Like bearded.
That's a good
I
point.
think that's the sort of like thing that feels like Gainesville.
Warren looks like if you took Gainesville and like made Gainesville a person.
Oh yeah, no,
Something
that
I found out today that Warren and I share a birthday, and not just
Nice.
like birth date, like day and year.
Nice.
So Warren and I are exactly the same age, and I love that for us.
That's good.
That's
Warren
funny.
seemed wonderful. Warren. I mean, I always loved when I was going to shows seeing Warren play, and I loved it on this
Mhm.
documentary. But the sort of interview side, which I hadn't seen much of, he has like sort of like when Wayne leaves the stage and it's just Garth in like Wayne's World, and he's like,
Oh yeah.
I like to play. I like just a gentle soul, just
Yeah.
a
Well,
really loved Warren.
I did sort of a deep dive on Warren today. He was very I met him once. We spoke for a while. His band, he was doing a band I think they were called Sunshine State, and they played right after my band at Fest.
Cool.
And it was like sort of a small venue, but it was, it was cool to like sort of catch up with somebody whose art I really appreciate. But I had no idea that he was like a pioneer of the Gainesville freegan movement.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, wild stuff.
So much sense.
I had a no Warren Iraq shirt that they mention on the doc.
Wait, do they?
It said
Yeah.
it said his name on it.
Yeah, it said no, no
Cool.
idea sold him. It was no Warren Iraq.
That's good. That is good.
It's a
That's
good
really
one.
funny.
Yeah, he's very sweet, very tall from what I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I
seems
totally
that way.
totally get what you're saying about just the personification of just like the scraggly beard and the messy hair, the wireframe glasses.
Yeah, I was
It's
gonna
like a
say
very
the
specific
glasses
types
that
of
are
person.
Yeah, the glasses that are not like fashionable glasses.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very sweet guy.
So Dan, you or Andrew, you and I were at those shows, and like for me personally, those shows Against Me shows between like 04 and 06. It partly it's my age and partly it's what stage they were at and everything. Those are some of the best shows I ever saw, the sort of like
Yeah.
cathartic release type shows I'd ever seen. Andrew, share away on your end, but Dan, how did like watching them play in this documentary, how did that register to you?
I mean, I definitely appreciate it more live than I do on the record. And seeing them live, I was like very much like in work mode. and not super familiar with a lot of the music, so I didn't appreciate it when I saw them in person live. But
Yep.
watching these, especially after listening to the Eternal Cowboy record, then seeing them played live on this doc is like, oh, I get it. Like, it translates really well, if not better. The crowd engagement is fantastic. And I made a note here specifically, is like, Turn Those Clapping Hands is a banger. Like, straight up rips. Seeing it live, so goddamn good. That was like my big takeaway from listening to that record. And then seeing it on here, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a crowd pleaser. I'd probably be like piling up there too.
I can close my eyes and still remember everybody singing along to like Sink Florida Sink.
Yeah.
Like louder than the band was playing. I may have seen them 4, maybe 5 times. I don't remember them ever having that much like interaction with the crowd. Like they weren't like I don't know. I don't even remember that much banter, to be honest.
They don't do that. They don't do that much banter. Frank Turner talked about taking them to England, and that was like a hint he wanted to because he loved them. And he's like, and he's not like hitting you with the hardest punk, you know. There's like all kinds of pop sensibility all over that. And he's like, yeah, Against Me just went up, played 16 songs in a row without saying anything, and freaked everybody out, including my backing band, and did that 20 nights in a row across Europe.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like they're just like swinging a sledgehammer in the dark. And it feels cliche, and it sells it short to say like, oh, it's just pure emotion, it's just pure cathartic emotion on stage. Because you could say that about a lot of things, but there's like an art that happens when like the 4 of them play together. You know what I mean? I've never seen them without Warren. I will probably get shit for this, but I think besides Laura and like besides I guess like the Rickenbacker guitar tones, James's backing vocals like are what defines that band for me.
Seeing it in the documentary, you're like, holy fuck, he's doing way more cool stuff than I've ever even really giving him credit for.
They're such amazing performers who like don't care about performing.
Mm-hmm. I remember being there and just really registering in my head, like, wait, the singer's over there on the left, this other guy harmonizing on the right, there's a bassist in the middle. Can't remember if he even had a mic stand. And there's some level of like sort of setting yourself aside from attention in that. I think the like sort of real or emotional or whatever word you were trying to get at earlier, like there's all these different versions of mixing like raw, folky, sort of just emotional stuff and louder music. And that could be everything from folk punk, pure folk punk, or it could be like Dashboard Confessional, or it could be some soul singer or whatever. Whatever version of it this was sort of like you're banging down the like punk button I need to like whatever I need to get out at this show. That's also like, how is it that I can just sing along to this song like someone's just playing an acoustic guitar in front of me? And right. I think get that happening across every person in that room, and they're all going to leave that ready to go like be a fucking fight on behalf of that band.
I think that the only band that ever came this close to like having that same feeling was seeing Kid Dynamite. It's the only other band that I can think of that I was really like, got introspective about like what punk means to me, or like what you just sort of that means. I had the same desire to feel that way for Iron Chic, because I feel like their music was so down that same road. But like, I don't know, that one dude in Iron Chic is just too much. Like
I listen and like them, but I've never seen them.
Yeah. I've never seen someone like police the crowd more than like
okay.
their singer who plays guitar. I don't even remember his name. But whatever. Dear friend Jesse Litwa is in that band, formerly of Broadcaster. What's up, Jesse?
What's up, Jesse? All right. Do we think Axl Rose really busted up that record and did voodoo on them?
No fucking chance.
Yeah. Also, could God, I never remember anybody's name, but like, could Homeboy from Boy Sets Fire have a stranger accent? I'm pretty sure they're from Delaware. There's no excuse. I don't understand.
Is that who the guy was that was telling that story? He was from Boy Sets Fire. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
What did that accent sound like? It did.
It was like sort of European, but
Yeah, that's
like
true.
it was very open mouth consonants. I don't know
Yeah,
how else to
yeah.
word it.
In my mind, he's like from like Denmark or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Nathan was also in that. Or maybe that was Nathan. I don't remember. The bass player was also in there who I met many times at like shows at the Stalag, or the Kill Time in Philly. Very, very lovely human.
I love that there were some
It's
anti-flag
coalesce.
haters in this doc, and they're very
Same.
much on the right side of history at this
Yeah.
point.
Same. I'm I probably only notice it when I'm right, but there's certain like little things like this. I feel like I'm sniffing something out. And with anti-flag, I was an anti-flag hater long ago. I remember
Same.
being at a
Same.
show and being like, you know, I'm against the war in Iraq too, but this guy, fuck this guy. Literally anybody could get me on their side right now on things like this, and something's going on with this guy.
Yeah, something's fishy.
You know what? I sort of liked that one record, only because I worked somewhere where
They did like a partnership with Target on one of their
Yeah,
records.
weird.
And I'm like, that how can you be so
God.
anti-capitalist
Yeah,
and you're doing partnership
co-
commercials with Target?
New Kind of Army came out when I was living or almost living in Tucson, Arizona, and working at Hot Topic. It was like one of the only records that everyone could agree on. Yeah, I was like 18 years old. I didn't,
Yeah.
I was like the Get Up Kids. I feel like Something to Write Home About had just come out, and I was like, that's all I want to listen
You
to.
worked at Hot Topic at 18. What a thing.
Yeah, I started there when I was 17, living alone. What a
Like
dream.
Hot Topic, that period, you'll get an anti-flag shirt in there. They rose to that wall.
Oh,
No,
sure.
absolutely
No?
not yet. No,
Really?
I want to say the only like Us music stuff that was on the wall at that time
Us
was
music.
got a fucking problem, Dan.
Yeah, it's a funny.
This isn't our podcast. I can talk to you however I want.
because there's
no.
decorum on our podcast.
My unsolicited this is me like doing in my audit of your podcast as you promote your Patreon. I think what you should promote more that you're leaving on the table is that on the Patreon, Andrew's really mean to Dan. Andrew's mean to Dan.
Meaner than usual.
Andrew's mean to Dan about like, oh, you like going to the countryside?
Hey, listen.
I don't understand. Anyway, so Dan has a book to promote. He'll talk about it later. But
Sure I will.
anyway,
I'm trying to get Andrew to come to the lake, and he won't do it.
yeah, I'd like fun stuff. I don't want to do what you do.
What are you
The
running
best-
from, Andrew?
Anyway,
Yeah.
at that time, I feel like the only bands that like there was like one Saves the Day shirt with like a race car on it, and then there was like the Get Up Kids Wheat shirt, and that was it.
Okay.
Classic wheat shirt.
I wonder what's on theirs now. I think I might
God.
try and walk into a Hot Topic
It's
soon
a bunch
and
of like
take a look.
anime shit now. I'm pretty sure,
That's a good point.
which is weird.
I can't remember the last time I walked into
My-
a Hot Topic.
My thing like that I've had recently is like the Hard Times does doing a lot of rankings of albums and stuff like that.
It's
And
like all they're
sometimes
doing now.
these rankings will come up. It'll be like the top 10 top albums, or the albums ranked by like the one that registers with me is Ice Nine Kills, and it's a bunch of fucked up looking album covers. Do you know this band? I've never heard of this.
No,
I
I've never
know-
listened to this band.
So I had a conversation with a friend because I photographed Ice Nine Kills in like 2011 maybe.
Are they scary? They look scary on that.
Well, they were like opening for, I think it was like Vanna, and I wrestled a bear once or something fucking insane. And they play like weird theatrical pop metal, whatever. But they've gotten so big in the last like 10 years that they, I think, opened one of those giant Metallica shows like at the Meadowland, at like MetLife. And so they're that big now.
Yeah, crazy.
And which is crazy, but yeah, go on about.
I bet-
I don't know much about them except like their first EP, which is like of that era of like Escape the Fate. Remember that like era of music?
I don't know.
Whichever of us walks into a Hot Topics first, let's see if Ice Nine Kills is on the top. Report back.
It would not be shocking because they've gotten remarkably. Let's check their Spotify listens right now.
Andrew, did you plot the road trip from Gainesville to Casadega?
I did. It's an hour and 59 minutes. I'm ready to go right fucking now.
Way shorter than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
that's perfect.
fact, it's halfway between Gainesville, and where dear friend from Pool Kids and You Blew It, Andy and I live. So I think we should
Perfect.
just meet there.
Yeah, let's all hang out. Weekend at Casadega.
We can ride alligators or whatever they do
Hell
there.
yeah. Oh yeah, so Ice Nine Kills 2.5 million monthly listeners. And I saw them play like third support.
What's against me
Vanna.
have right now?
What's against me's monthly listeners?
I guarantee you it's less than Ice Nine Kills.
For sure, it's gonna be less than that.
Yeah.
That's-
So 537,000.
Which is weirdly
Nothing to shake a stick at for sure, but
Less
2
than-
million less than Ice Nine Kills.
I know.
yeah, and shockingly less than Anti-Flag has.
Oh, I'm not shocked by that. Anti-Flag had they had such a weird pop crossover, but
they did.
But do you can you seriously tell me right now that Anti-Flag had more of like a cultural moment than Against Me did?
I think they broke through the normie barrier a little bit.
They broke
Which
through
is
more than that.
Fucking insane.
It's crazy, but
It is, but
they
you,
were playing.
you have to speak the cartoony, dumb version of being that kind of political band, and Anti-Flag did that wholesale, like completely.
Yeah.
Justin, I feel like we're bringing you down to our level. You're such a positive guy. We get on here and you're like, yo, honestly, here's what I hate about Anti-Flag.
I'm on record as hating Anti-Flag. I am happy to hate on Anti-Flag.
What else do you hate? What else could we delve into?
The beaches on the East Coast.
Yeah, you can fight you right now.
Here's a good thing with that.
My dirk on that.
Talked about this on the last one with Ryan Page. Does this band, you've played in Gainesville? I did one like 3-day stint in Orlando one time. That's all I've ever seen of Florida. Does this band or any bands like that make you? Has it ever like it puts some shine on Florida that shouldn't exist for me in some way?
Yeah,
There's some
I mean,
appeal.
I lived in Florida for like from age 3 to age 11. So I've got like a small like learned hatred of that place. I think there's a lot of really beautiful little pockets of good stuff in Florida, right? Like all the power violence bands
They
and
produce
like
a lot of music.
screamo band, Reversal of Man, Combat Wounded Veteran. You like You Blew It is a Florida band.
Yeah. It's a musical, much like Asbury Park. It's a musical.
I
place.
think it's a really good place to incubate punk, because punk is such an outlier to like what Florida is all about.
It's a kind of a rebellion against it.
You might say.
Under Oath is a Florida band.
Are they really?
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of them.
You've really never heard Under Oath?
No, I've never. I mean, I've heard of it. I've never.
We'll have to do a Patreon episode about him at some point.
Good.
That's one I've seen at Warped Tour mainly. That's I do that. Christian, right?
Yeah, hell yeah. We're talking about a Christian hardcore band record on a Patreon coming up. Look out for that.
That's terrible.
The Chariot, one of my favorite bands.
Have you ever eaten from a cheese fountain? Have you ever dipped food under a little cheese?
I made a note about the cheese fountain.
I did too.
I've only ever seen that specific fountain used for chocolate. So seeing it used for cheese, I'm like,
I know,
sounds good.
I've had that one. It's just is fondue just you dip into a pool, or is it
fondue? Is just like a melting like double boiler pot. Yeah. So it's a fondue fountain, but hey,
what kind of cheese do you think that was?
I forget maybe like a Gruyere.
Yeah,
it's gotta be a softer
Gruyere.
cheese. But I think Gruyere is a pretty hot and heavy fondue cheese.
A thing with the documentary is that it starts with the very first like fan they talk to, and this fits with like talking about the fucking cheese fountain, is like a drunk British kid trying to remember the name of a song, and he's
trying to sing Mutiny. Yeah.
He's
my
all
God.
fucked. And I think it's perfect because, like you said earlier, like this is the period of like bonus DVDs on things and just people making these things. It sets from the tone from the start that regardless of what they're saying about signing to a major label, what they're saying about their ethos, what they're doing, that above all else, we're showing you live songs and fucking around. Like
Yeah.
there's no,
Yeah.
that's it.
There's a really good part that I forgot to mention during the Asbury Park bit, but there's a little montage of them talking to people about who they were there at Skate and Surf to
Oh yeah,
see.
yeah.
And like you love to see in any kind of rockumentary, you love to see an entire montage of people like, I don't like Against Me. I don't care. Like, who
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
you
yeah.
love to see like self-hatred on display.
I'm here for Coheed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that I got some real whiplash on some of the throwbacks. Like Autopilot Off was one of the bands they like
Yeah.
shined the
Yeah.
logo on, and then Hazen Street was the other one.
Hazen Street. Holy shit.
And then there was another shirt that in they had like a merch table, and the shirt just said side print, and that took me really back. Remember side print shirts?
That's a band?
No, no,
That's a
like they
shirt?
like merch that was printed just like randomly
Oh.
on the lower left side of the shirt. That was like a huge thing in
Oh, I see.
in
Yeah.
like the metalcore screamo world at that time. But I'm actually looking because this would have been like 2003, right? I think it
What
was.
Skate and Surf that was?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it must have been 2003. Uh, yeah. Okay, main stage because they played the main stage, right? Didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because they're in the documentary, they're like holding guitars in the convention hall. So I
Yeah.
assume.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Homegrown, Coheed and Cambria, Thrice, Andrew WK starting line, The Used, Goldfinger. Goldfinger headlined
Nice.
Friday. Waiting for Sunset. No, that's all bullshit. Armor for Sleep. Just played the Wellmont in Montclair, New Jersey. My Chemical Romance not even headlining a side
Dang.
stage.
The Early November played that show.
Oh fuck, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, there's story of
I
the
don't see
year.
them on here anywhere.
Yeah, I'm looking too, and I don't.
Oh,
see
I
them.
do.
Where are they?
Arcade stage, right between Big D and the kids table,
Oh my god.
and somebody called Major Ska. This is so many bands.
This is so yeah, it's wild. And it's such a
This
time
is
capsule.
an unbelievable amount of bands.
Plain White Tees playing at 3 in the afternoon on a side stage.
I'm pretty sure I saw Plain White Tees at 3 in the afternoon on a Warp Tour for sure.
I
Oh
think I
yeah,
did
I mean,
too.
Delilah.
I saw Plain White Tees, and I was a big May fan, or at least just of that first record. I saw Plain White Tees in May at the church, and there was probably 20 people there, 25 people. Real weird shit.
Does Hey There Delilah exist and gets played to those 20 or not exist yet?
Oh
I
yeah,
don't-
it did exist. It definitely
it hadn't-
existed.
it hadn't
They
hit yet?
definitely played the song.
When did that
song.
come out?
I think there's probably some internal questioning of like, do we put this song on our record? This isn't the band we are. And it's like, you do, and that becomes everything their band
Yeah,
is.
that record didn't come out till 2005 apparently. And it was the last song on that record.
I think that's a smart choice, actually. I think it's
Yeah.
a smart choice.
Of what record?
Whatever Plain White Tees came, I just closed it out. But
What,
I gotta say, so we were talking about bonus DVDs and stuff. The channel that this is on is one I've actually brought up on our podcast before, Bonus Disc. One of my favorite channels on YouTube because it's literally some guy or some person has just taken all of those old music DVDs of this era
Yeah,
and
cool.
put them all on YouTube. When we were going to talk about the Saddle Creek one, it was on this channel, and then when the weekend we decided we were going to like watch it, it got taken down by the director's copyright struck it. But it was on this channel, and it's just find it and go through the entire like upload list because there's so much. I think there's stuff like speaking of the Chariot put out a DVD before their first record even came out. And it's just them like playing football at like Cornerstone Fest with Norma Jean. Like it's just again, it's like like everyone had a mini DV recorder at the time, so there was always somebody taking video, and they just said fuck it and put that stuff on a DVD, and it's just like it's more merch. It's just easy shit to sell.
Yeah, I
on,
mean,
like, interpunk.com where I bought it.
Nice. We had talked about Interpunk on the last episode too. I think that I don't know. I appreciate it. I'm not like a DVD extra person who needs every bit of everything. And I obviously didn't see this at the time, but
It's just
like
it's a cultural touch point. Like it's just
it,
seeing what things were like in 2004. You know?
it's like I'm pointing this camera at you. You're sitting on this chair. Let's talk. A dog is going to roll around. Maybe you just laugh at the dog. Maybe you say something interesting. It's just like a camera dump kind of that's
Yeah.
threaded
Well,
together by them touring.
and this is something I just thought of now is like the idea of that, like, because nowadays everyone has a phone with a camera and a video, and
Yeah.
everyone's being videoed at every moment of their lives essentially. And this is of the era when that didn't exist. So when someone had a camera out, there's always that weird like compulsion to just do something weird, like.
Yeah, you're
And
right. You're right.
that's so much of what this DVD is. It's like it's just they got a camera in their face and they're like, I gotta do something for the camera.
I gotta say something.
And it's a very specific era of content because of that. You know, because like everyone
Totally.
could still like afford one more or less, and yet it's still like an event that someone has one.
I gotta say that did cross my mind today.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you get people in front of a camera now to have an opinion on anything, way more conversational.
Mm.
The some of those like interviews, especially with like the punk people,
Yeah.
are real like deer in headlights, like not looking at the
Mhm.
camera, just sort of like ugh.
Well,
Um,
a great example of people doing weird shit for the camera is my least favorite part of this DVD was them at Beauty Bar.
Refresh me.
Oh, it's towards the end, but they're all just getting fucking wasted, and the guy just like pulls his dick out and starts like pissing in a beer glass
Yeah,
that may or may not have been passed to Laura at some point, moments later.
Yeah.
And then the guy like he's like, "Why'd you piss all over the floor?" And he's like, "I don't know."
You don't need that. Don't need that
No.
on tour.
pissing on
Stupid
the floor drives
Bar
you crazy, man.
antics. I don't. You know, it's not my favorite thing.
High maintenance.
I
You
prefer an
prefer the
unpi-
bubbler?
Yes, I prefer an unpissed floor generally. But yeah, it's just like it's weird because the moment he pees into a beer glass, and then it cuts to a beer glass being handed to Laura, and it's like, it's Laura drinking the piss.
Not great. Yeah, not great.
But yeah, it's just them like pounding shots. It's wild.
Love it.
And also Beauty Bar is like, I hate that bar. I don't know.
Where is that?
They're all over. There's a few, but the idea is it's like it's a bar that's also like a nail salon. I think Laura gets her nails done at some point there too. But what it means is essentially it's a bar that's supposed to be divey-ish, but also just smells like nail polish remover.
This is totally new to me.
Yeah, I think there's definitely one in
somebody
LA.
references the beauty bar in a song. Maybe it's in a
Men-
national
Menzingers?
song.
Yeah, I mean I know there's
Wait,
one
wait.
in New
Does
York.
the Menzingers mention the beauty
I'm
bar?
just gonna say that they mention all bars and diners and
Yeah,
It's,
you're probably
it's,
right.
it's implied. Yeah, there's multiple beauty bars though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Across
Good
this great
concept.
land.
You're right.
I
Good
love-
concept until the place what you're drinking just smells like nail polish and
Yeah,
I love the None More Black needle drop.
yeah.
There's a None More Black song that plays that I was like, oh, I don't think I knew who None More Black was the last time I watched this.
You get that. You get a Lucero needle drop.
Mm.
Yeah. I think it's got a good feeling of like I looked up the guy. He's on Instagram and he's sort of like this like beach bum surfer living in Hawaii. The guy who made the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
You
Was
just,
he unavailable?
No, I didn't reach out. I didn't reach out to him. He's you're tier A. He's like 3 guests down of people saying no.
Oh.
So thanks for saying yes. It just has a feel of like an interview like that. I don't know if you've interviewed people on camera besides like these Zoom calls or whatever, but like pointing a camera at the like verite moment of what you're doing on the bus, you're totally right, Dan. You're going to be like, it's going to elicit something slightly unnatural, but it's a unique thing.
Yeah.
But like sitting down to be like, sit down, we're going to do the interview. Like there's a version of doing that can be like, I'm setting up the lights, I'm
Mhm.
setting up the lapel microphone, I'm doing all this. And that's all of that is contributing to a process of putting that person in a headspace of how they're going to treat it. And this is clearly like, A&R guy, sit on the steps, pointing the camera at you, say things. Like all the interviews are just like, so there's some sort of like thing about it that's like, you're being interviewed for your documentary, but there's like this meta thing of like, isn't this funny how we're fucking around and doing these interviews for this thing at the same time?
There were two different things that happened during the sort of like major label "you're a fool" interview things. The one was when they're talking, I forget what her name is, but they're talking to the woman from Ireland, if I'm not mistaken. Um and she says something about like, I understand not trusting, but for every jawbreaker there's
Yes.
like a band that makes it. And I was sort of like, what a weird thing to say
Yeah.
in front of people who you're trying to coerce.
It is a
Like,
good
let's take the worst possible example of something you might care about and like put that in your head first.
Yeah.
um
yeah.
and I
You're
also don't know that I think that her assessment is right. I don't think that
I mean,
there's
at the
like,
time, it was a major
it was
flop.
totally correct then. It's
no, but
only
I mean, like, I don't know that there's that many like underground bands that have gotten that
Oh,
much success to say it's one for one.
true.
yeah.
The other thing that I thought was really funny was when they were sort of blaming not wanting to sign to a major label on Warren's ethics. And there's the part where dude from Universal's yelling at him saying, "Get rid of Warren and get a drum machine." And
Yeah.
then they did get rid of Warren,
I
like
know.
when they did do a major label. It was almost
I
like
mean,
a crystal ball.
but the folklore is he went back and started a restaurant in Florida.
Yeah, Boca Fiesta, which is great. It's the first and only time I've ever had gator tail bites.
Damn. Is
That
that
place is great.
It's not a
where are
vegan
we at?
spot.
Where are we at on
No.
the freegan situation?
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
definitely not vegan. It's attached to a pool hall called the Palomino. And I mean, I've only been there during fest, obviously. But real fun place, really good food. So good job, Warren. You may have chosen right. I don't know.
Now, yeah, now I want to go there too.
Do
See,
you think he's a
Florida.
shitty drummer? I don't think he's a shitty drummer.
Hell no. Perfect. They struck gold having that guy become the drummer in that band.
Which is crazy because there's in Sellout there's a part about how like it was clear that Warren didn't have the chops to move forward with the band,
Wow.
which is like more indicative, I think, of the band wanting to change a style than like Warren not being able to keep up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It definitely the drums on New Wave don't sound like the way Warren drummed, but I think it worked
Right.
because it was like fast and loose acousticy yelling band got a drummer who feels like he's doing his version of that but on the drums, and it's
Mhm.
all much more buttoned up on the next on New Wave. And so I don't know, it goes where it goes, but absolutely think it's amazing.
I don't think I like the buttoned up. You know what I mean? I think I like the loose. There's a lot of like on those early Against Me records, there's a lot of just things that couldn't happen with like a, I don't know, technically amazing drummer. Like Max Weinberg's son, I don't think has like
He just got
the
kicked out of he just got kicked
the
out of Slipknot.
Was he kicked out or did he leave?
I don't know. He's not in Slipknot anymore, and I think he said he's heartbroken about it. I don't know.
I want to say he got kicked out. That would make me feel better for
Did
some
they?
reason.
I
Me
think.
too.
I think it was my friend Dylan Ballier on Twitter was talking about. He posted something about Slipknot was complaining about like the cost of touring, and he's like, "Well, maybe you shouldn't have 3 drummers." And then he reposted it again with the thing of Max Weinberg leaving the band. He's like, "Oh no."
Nice. That's awesome. There's a part in the documentary that I loved where they like, as the Eternal Cowboy has the song, it's like, I hate this stupid fucking drum beat, but I'm not gonna tell anyone. And they flash, and Warren like flips off the camera while drumming.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Nice, cute little moment. Made me happy.
I think ending the documentary with joy, or at least like that version of
Right.
joy, is a real like tugging at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
It made me both nostalgic and like jealous that I that's not a life that I even remotely identify with now. Wait, Justin, what's your Against Me record? Did we already talk about that?
My favorite is As the Eternal Cowboy, but that's the
Mhm.
one I came to it with. And funny enough, Lifted's my favorite Bright Eyes record. It's the record I came to it with. So there might be, and they're around the same year. So there might be some kind of like, that's all the answer actually is. Like all reason comes downstream from that. But yeah, I think it's like the best songs probably are on Reinventing Axl Rose, and the
Mhm.
my favorite record is As the Eternal Cowboy.
Interesting. I think I'm a searching for a former Clarity person. I think I also just instinctively like mid tempo stuff, but
You really love
Yeah.
Mintetsu stuff.
sorry,
It,
Dan, what was that?
What,
Look,
what don't you understand?
I think all those records all have very unique distillations of the same emotion. And I think I like the introspection and like lifting of the what's that thing called? The curtain that Clarity has. Can't call it
I
Clarity. Can I call it Searching?
Yeah, let's do that. I absolutely love that record too. That was the one that I was ready and just clamoring to get when it came out. Saw the shows leading up to that, and that's the one. I think the activity on the next one. If you want to tune into the next episode of this show, that will be about that record. That's one that can use. I mean, who the fuck am I? But like, chop a few songs off and resequence it or something.
Mm.
That's all it is. It's got as many good songs, but there's sort of like a I don't skip anything on those other two records, and I do skip some stuff on that one.
Do you see? I have no skips on Searching. I don't think I would have to listen to it again, but a lot of really great moments on that record. Not what I thought I wanted from that band,
Yeah,
but ended up being sort of
it's its own version of kind of like a big swing without actually signing to the label. Like
yeah.
they do some stuff, you know.
I think that would have been a much better major label first release. You know what I mean? At
Kind of
least that would have made more sense.
feels like
Maybe.
it feels like it could have too. Like Don't
Yeah.
Lose Touch and stuff feels like it could have.
Which that Don't Lose Touch video was great. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've ever seen it, but
There's an insane live performance of Jeff Rosenstock playing that with the band The Sidekicks. And he's sort of like
Oh
really,
hell yeah! I
he's
love the
like
sidekick.
he's singing that while the sidekicks are playing in the background, and he is fucking absolutely balls to the wall iteration of Don't Lose Touch. Well, cool. Anything we want to say about before we button this up and tell people a little bit about you guys and run into the ground?
no, the only other thing that I wanted to bring up was there's a really great scene, maybe outside of Asbury Park, where they're talking about like making fun of your friends and like making fun of people almost as like a litmus test of
I
like,
love that.
can I like this? Can I get along with this person? That is so integral to like my relationships with people and how I sort of view my life as like
Me
how can
too.
I how can I be the most prickly pear that
Uh,
like makes people, I don't know, hopefully want to hang out
I
knowing
think
they're
I'm.
gonna get made fun of the whole time.
I guess I'm different in the sense that I'm not the like prickly pear. I'm going to be slightly a dick to you,
Mm.
but the sort of version where they're pranking people or do it's sort of like a you either handle this like a person who just had something happen and that's just like the little fun little things you do in life, or you get really pissed off about it and now I've gathered my data on you and I'm all good on it.
Justin, are you a
Yeah.
prankster?
Yeah, I kind of am.
Yeah.
Original prankster?
Oh wow, we got
Like,
here again.
are you a pranks in the hood gone wrong kind of guy?
I'm like like I just got a have you ever heard of these things that like I remember watching The Office and thinking like that character speaking to me, the guy who just pranks his coworkers or whatever.
Mhm.
Are you talking about
Like I just
Jim?
Jim, yeah, which is like what a sitcom is like let's create archetypes of people that they can see themselves in people or whatever. But this last week I had like I saw this thing online that was like a little it's like a little like microchip looking thing that you can set to beep one time between every 4 minutes and 45 minutes and it just chirps once.
Uh-huh.
I was supposed to be in my office at the same days with some coworkers and stuff, but I wasn't there. And I thought it'll be funny. They'll just wonder what that chirp is doing. And then I got the email at the end of the day that was like, there's something beeping in the office. I've emptied the batteries on all the smoke alarms. I've like
No,
you've
no,
used
no.
work hours have been drained into this thing. And it's a little bit of like
No, there was a story about that recently because I know what you're talking about, and it was from like you used to be able to get them on like thinkgeek.com and that like that kind of weird office prank shit. And there was one that someone did it in the office, and it got to the point where like the CIA was called because they found it, and then they thought it was like a Russian like tracking device. Some, you know, it's probably
looks
one of those
like
like
that.
Reddit stories that is like half fiction, but
yeah, but I mean
apparently
I would
those
say
things have plagued offices in a way that have reached like government alphabet agency level of concern.
Yeah, there might be some half fiction in it, but I did it. I was supposed to be in the office that day, so I would have observed the thing that was funny. But with this, I fully forgot it was there. And I thought it might be like, I'll hear it later in the week or someone will mention it. But then I was like, one day of this thing was causing distress to the point
did
that
you
I
out
told
yourself? Did you?
I outed myself.
You
Yeah,
did?
I outed. But I have it now. I don't know. I just gotta plant it. The next place I plant it has to be someone who doesn't listen to this podcast. So no punk adjacent friends of mine will get this
Oh
thing next.
man.
I like that their thing was we're gonna be on this tour and we're gonna go actively out of our way to do these like innocent versions of fucking with people. I
Everyone
guess
loves a
maybe
tour prank though. That's a classic tour trope. Especially like the last day of tour. Like I think they hit everyone with pies. Or I think my favorite thing was they found out that the other band was gonna hit them with pies.
right.
And they decided to do it to them first. And the band still came out and hit them with pies anyway.
There's really no bad about that. All that is good, positive friend making stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we think they locked again Taking Back Sunday in a dressing room with a padlock from the outside of it? That's a good one.
I don't know.
Like before their set time, like that's potentially more,
That's wild.
but I'm a fan of that too. So
I think I asked people who were there and no one remembered that happening. So I feel like that probably didn't happen, but also
it either was enough to be like, yeah, I locked them in there and then I walked away. And then 6 minutes later, someone let them out and it had no consequences whatsoever, but we all get to have fun with it.
Let's hope. Let's take that route.
Where can people find you guys and Run Into the Ground?
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff. Well, as you mentioned, we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/runtotheground. We do 2 bonus episodes a month. Just me and Andrew, generally no guests, talking about a record that we've kind of, gone back and listened to and we're reassessing. Or like you mentioned, we do kind of we'll watch a music documentary or something and talk about that. So all of our bonus episodes go there. We do a lot of kind of, if someone mentions a specific thing that might not be easy to find on the internet, we'll post that up. I've posted Dropbox links to albums that are potentially harder to find or not streaming. Sometimes our guests will make a custom mixtape. We make custom mixtapes every month for our Patreon of stuff we've been listening to. So yeah, ton of bonus content on there. At this point now, there's probably 25 plus back cataloged episodes you can go on there. And
are there really?
Yeah, we have a lot of good content on there. So
you guys do this at a reliable and impressive clip.
Yeah, at only the expense of our lives.
I do these when they're ready. That's the only schedule I can ever arrive at.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to have a schedule though, and we've got a nice little back catalog. When's this coming out?
This one probably be in like a week.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we got Amy Madden coming up on the pod, which is really cool. Talking about Clarity by Jimmy Eat World. That's a lot of fun episodes, and we mentioned we have Andy and Aya on talking Rage Against the Machine Evil Empire. So those are some really fun episodes coming out soon. Definitely check that out.
Was it purely coincidental, accidental, whatever, that I did it the week I did it? The very next week was fellow Omaha band 311, the dude talking 311. It was back-to-back Omaha, two sides of the coin.
That is one of our most crazy episodes.
I would say that's our Kid A.
Yeah, he says that, right?
Yeah, it's a moment that will haunt me for the rest of my life.
He's calling out the album, the 311 album he's talking about is their Kid A.
Yeah. And I posted, if you go back a little bit on our Instagram, I posted the video of our Zoom chat of that, and it is a moment where both me and Andrew, I almost spit out I do a spit take. Literally, it catches me so off guard, and then I am a mess for a minute of just trying to comprehend the thing he just said to me.
It is good.
Yeah, so that was a very fun, genuine moment. But we got Run to the Ground on Instagram, Run in #2 the Ground on Twitter. I have a new book coming out, so if anyone lives not on the opposite side of the world like Justin does, my new book. When I kill God, I will find the spigot from which he meters out grace and smash it permanently open. is coming out December 7th, and I'm doing a release party and gallery opening at Brooklyn Film Camera, 855 Grand Street in Brooklyn, from 7 to 9, December 7th. So
That'll be really fun.
Yeah,
I also have a book coming out called "If God's Grace Comes Out of a Spigot." I'm gonna knock the spigot off and really get things going.
friends of our pod overnight drive, Hans tried to remember my book title without looking it up, and that's what he came out with. But yeah, you can pre-order that now also just on danbassini.com. And
very cool.
Yeah,
it looks
Dan Bassini
sweet.
on everything. Andrew, where can people find you?
I don't care where you can find me. I know I talk about this on our show, and I just want to make sure that I talk about it everywhere. A dear friend of mine passed away recently, and his family could really use help. They're not destitute or anything, but losing a family member
Absolutely.
obviously takes a toll. Steve is a dear friend to a lot of people. So if you're able and just want to, help out a family this holiday season, please head over to gradwellhouse.com. And in their menu, you'll see a thing called Steve Paponi. You can learn a little bit about Steve. And there's a Venmo link for Steve's wife at the bottom. So if you can help out, it would really help a family that's and a community that's really hurting right now. So
fixture of the South Jersey music scene.
Really sounded like it.
Yeah. I've never felt a loss like this. So it's just, to me personally, it's really important that that people learn about Gradwell House and learn about the things that Steve did. And if you can help, that's great. If you can't, that's fine too. But just please listen to Up, Up, Down, Down, Left, Right, BA start this week, and just bask in a completely underappreciated genius. And that's what I gotta say.
Beautifully put. We'll put a link to that in the bottom, and yeah, go check out Run Into the Ground. What I'd suggest is scroll down through, wait for an album you love, and see what they have to say about it. See if they just talk for a long time and never get to it. Or scroll down to the lifted one, and I'm on that one. If you wanna hear Bright Eyes, but
honestly, I'll give you the hack. Just skip to 45 minutes if you just want to hear about the album. But Justin, it was really good to see you.
Yeah,
honestly,
Justin, as a listener though, what's your favorite part? Do you like the album discussion or do you like the bullshit talking?
I love both. I like both.
All right.
I mean, I think it works. I think it works as you can listen to the bullshit talking, and if they get to some album that you're like, I literally have no interest whatsoever, you can say peace.
Oh, I haven't even thought about people who don't listen to the music part.
The bullshit talking. I'm not sure I've done that.
If that's the case, you'll love our Patreon. So.
Yeah, I'll say most recently, yesterday. When does this come out? I
think in a week, but you guys are making me feel fucking pressure now.
I'm not trying to.
Kind of stress.
We just had Dave Hill, who if you don't know him from anything other than writing the Last Week Tonight theme song, it's a great episode, and you got to come listen to it. He's a really
wild
great
guy,
really great guy.
Yeah, that one's already out, but he came on and talked about Husker Du. So that was fun.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. Love talking to you. Thanks for watching the movie. And
the raw dog. The raw dog. I am raw, she is raw, Paris is raw, I am raw.